dim the lights, let go of the day, and slip into something a little more honest. You're listening to Why Is It So Hard with Lizzie and Nash, where things get deep, raw, and just a little dangerous.
Hey loves, welcome back, or welcome in if this is your first time. You're listening to Why Is It So Hard? I'm Lizzie, joined as always by my husband Nash.
Hey everyone, we're so glad you're here. And tonight, we're doing something a little different. We're not rushing, we're not interviewing, we're not fixing. We're just being with you, with ourselves, with the raw, sacred, often tangled landscape of our sexuality.
So this episode, this experience, is about unlocking your sexual mind. It's about the parts of you that want more connection, more turn on, more ease, more freedom, and more truth.
And it's about the walls, the cages, the whispers that tell you, you can't ask for that, you shouldn't feel that, you're too much, you're not enough, not like that, not now, not you.
That's what we want to sit with tonight. What is it that holds us back from fully experiencing our sexual selves? Why is it so hard to let go?
This episode isn't rushed, and that's intentional. We wanted to create a space where we could take our time, where we didn't have to package sexuality into cute sound bites, where we could let the silence stretch, let the truth emerge, let the slow burn of real talk carry us deeper.
So wherever you are, maybe you're on a walk, maybe you're lying in bed, maybe you're doing the dishes or just sitting in the dark, breathe with us. Let yourself sink into your body, not to perform, not to produce, just to be in it. Let's start by being real. Most of us are carrying sexual inhibitions we don't even recognize. We think we're open. We think we're fine. We've had sex. We've had lovers. Maybe even mind-blowing orgasms. Maybe we've read the books, listened to the podcast, watched the shows, but still, there's something we haven't touched. Some truths we haven't said out loud. Some edge we haven't leaned into.
Sexual inhibition isn't always obvious. It doesn't always show up as fear. Sometimes it shows up as numbness. Sometimes it shows up as overperformance, doing what we think we're supposed to do, even when we're not really feeling it. Sometimes it's the way we check out mid-sex or avoid eye contact, or the way we fake orgasms, or how we never initiate, or how we always do because we're terrified of being unwanted.
There are 1,000 subtle ways we lock ourselves away, and often we don't even realize we're doing it because the lock was put there long ago. Let me tell you a story. Not a big, dramatic one, a quiet one. I was in 5th or 6th grade and already very well developed in the chest area, and someone commented on my body in a sexual way. Not a sweet, consensual way, just a hallway at school, a boy I didn't even know. He said something crude, loud, and everybody laughed. I didn't even understand the words fully, but I felt what it meant. My body wasn't mine anymore. It was something to be seen, judged, taken, laughed at. And I remember the sensation, like shrinking inside my own skin. That was the first brick in the wall.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, the first layer of inhibition comes not from ourselves, but from the way the world responds to our desire, or to our bodies. Maybe we're punished for being curious. Maybe we're ignored or shamed. Maybe we get silence when we ask questions. Or maybe we learn, slowly, that being sexual is dangerous, vulnerable, exposing.
Or that it's only safe when it's controlled, when it looks a certain way, when it serves someone else.
And so we learn to hide, to shapeshift, to bury, to mimic, to disassociate.
And we don't even notice how deep that pattern runs until we're in bed years later with someone we love. And we still can't say what we want. We still can't relax. We still feel disconnected or scared or flat. And we blame ourselves. We say things like, I'm broken. Why can't I just enjoy this? What's wrong with me? But the truth is, you are not broken. You are responding to years, maybe decades of unspoken fear, of inherited shame, of silence.
I want to say something to the men who are listening, because I think for us, inhibition can look different. We're taught that we're supposed to want sex all the time. We're told we're supposed to be confident, dominant, skilled. So when we don't feel that way, when we feel awkward or unsure or numb, we don't know what to do. We shut down, or we fake it, or we overcompensate. But the inhibition is there. It's just hiding under performance. And real sexual liberation for any gender means dropping the mask.
It means making space for the awkward, the messy, the slow, the confusing. It means asking questions like, what if I don't know what I want? What if I'm scared to ask for it? What if I've never truly explored what turns me on beyond what I've been told should turn me on?
Those are the questions that open the door, that start to chip away at the inhibition. Not the fantasies, not the moves, the truth.
So we're inviting you in this first chapter to be honest with yourself, not to change anything yet, not to force yourself into something new, just to sit, to name it, to admit what feels locked, what feels tight, what feels like a no, even when you want a yes. Okay, we're going to talk about where these inhibitions come from, how they get in our bodies, our nervous systems, our sense of worth. But for now, just breathe. You are not behind, you are not alone, and you are not broken.
You're just beginning to remember who you were before the shame, and who you still are underneath it. So here we are, still breathing together, still slowing down, still telling the truth.
Now we want to go back to the origin points, because inhibition isn't just something that shows up one day. It's built layer by layer. It's taught, often before we even know what sex is, before we know how to spell desire, before we know that our bodies can feel good.
We're going to talk about the roots, the foundations, the early imprints that shape how we relate to sex, touch, vulnerability, and power.
So think back, way back, not to your first kiss, not even to your first crush, but before that. What were the first messages you got about your body? What did you learn, directly or indirectly, about being seen?
Were you taught that your body was yours, or that it belonged to someone else? Were you encouraged to explore, to ask, to touch, or were you told to hide, to hush, to be good?
For me, the roots started early. I was raised in a home where we didn't talk about sex. Not in any real, human, honest way. Sex was this, an invisible cloud. It hovered. It was present, but it was never named. And when something is never named, you learn to fear it, to associate it with shame. That silence is powerful. People underestimate it, but silence is not neutral. It sends a message. When no one talks about pleasure or self-touch or consent or desire, the message is this isn't safe to talk about. And if it's not safe to talk about, how could it ever feel safe to experience? Now let's talk about gender, because the messages we get are often shaped by it. If you were raised as a girl, maybe you were taught to protect your body, but not to enjoy it. Maybe your worth was linked to modesty, to purity, to being good.
And if you were raised as a boy, maybe you were told that wanting is your default setting, that you're supposed to pursue, to take, that vulnerability is weakness, that sex is conquest.
Or maybe you didn't fit into those roles. Maybe you were queer. Maybe you were gender nonconforming. Maybe your desires didn't match the script. And maybe, like so many, you learned early that who you were wasn't allowed, that to be sexual as yourself was dangerous.
These are the roots, and they're deep. They live in our bones. They show up in how we flinch, how we freeze, how we perform, how we numb out.
Sometimes they show up as chronic tightness, a clenched jaw during sex, a held breath when someone touches you, a sudden drop in sensation right when things are supposed to be getting good.
Because your body remembers, even if your mind doesn't. Your nervous system holds every moment of this isn't safe, and those memories become patterns, and those patterns become inhibition.
Let's pause here. Let's not rush past that. Inhibition is a trauma response. It doesn't always come from capital T trauma. Sometimes it's 1,000 small moments of being shut down, dismissed, judged, ignored, conditioned.
Sometimes it's the way your partner laughed at your fantasy, or the way an ex made you feel small, or how every movie you ever watched showed sex without communication, without awkwardness, without mess. And so now, when you feel messy, you think something's wrong.
But there's nothing wrong with being messy. Messiness is where aliveness lives. Inhibition, though, it tries to sterilize sex, to keep it safe, controlled, predictable.
But desire doesn't live in control. It lives in surrender, in curiosity, in play.
That's why the root of healing inhibition isn't performance. It's permission to feel what you feel, to name what you need, to not have the answer, to not be good at it.
Let's go even deeper.
Sometimes inhibition is also about grief. Grief for what we never got to explore, for the years we spent disconnected, for the desires we buried to survive.
And healing means mourning those things, letting the tears come, letting the shame melt, letting ourselves forgive the version of us who didn't know how to ask, who didn't know they were allowed to want more.
So maybe you're listening right now and starting to realize just how early this all started. Maybe you're feeling it in your chest or your belly or that quiet ache behind your eyes.
Let it be there. Let it move. Let it soften.
You don't need to fix it tonight. You don't need to do anything. Just witness it. That's the beginning. That's the unlocking.
You're not late. You're right on time. And the fact that you're even here means the roots are loosening. The soil is shifting. The shame is cracking open.
Next, we're going to talk about reclaiming pleasure. Not just the act of sex, but the experience of being in your body. The joy, the heat, the surprise, the return.
But for now, take a breath. Place your hand on your chest or your stomach or wherever you feel you. And just say in your mind or out loud, I am allowed. I am not broken. I am remembering who I am.
As we said earlier in this episode, we're not rushing this. We're not trying to solve anything. We're not pushing you toward a goal. We're just making space. Space to feel, to unravel, to come back to yourself, to unlock. Gently, honestly.
So now, we want to talk about something tender, something radical, something we've been taught to suppress, silence, or sacrifice. Pleasure, and its wild, beautiful sibling, desire.
We've talked about shame. We've named some roots. We've acknowledged the cage. Now, let's talk about what it means to reclaim our right to feel good, to redefine what turns us on, not based on what we've been told, but based on what's true for us.
So many of us were never taught how to feel pleasure. We were taught how to provide it, how to fake it, how to give a good performance, but not how to slow down enough to really receive it, to savor it, to allow it to move through our whole bodies, not just our genitals.
And let's just be honest. A lot of us are disconnected from pleasure because we're terrified of what it might reveal. What if I like something that feels taboo? What if I'm bored by the sex I'm supposed to enjoy? What if my body wants something my partner doesn't understand?
What if I want more and I'm afraid to ask?
Here's what I've learned in my own sexual healing. Pleasure isn't just about sex. It's about presence. It's about attunement. It's about giving yourself full permission to feel without guilt, without performance, without apology.
When we talk about unlocking the sexual mind, we're not just talking about kink or positions or fantasies, though those can be beautiful tools. We're talking about deserving to feel joy in your body. We're talking about breaking up with numbness. We're talking about listening to your desire without needing to tame it.
Let's pause here, because we have to say this clearly. You do not need a partner to reclaim your pleasure. This isn't about someone else. This isn't about being wanted. It's about being with yourself, in your skin, in your breath, in your ache, in your fire.
It's about learning how to touch yourself in a way that's not just about getting off. It's about noticing the texture of your own longing, letting your fingers trail across your ribs, your thighs, your lips, and not rushing, not escaping, just being, feeling.
And here's something we don't talk about enough. Pleasure doesn't always mean arousal. It doesn't always mean orgasm. Sometimes pleasure is warmth. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's slowness. Sometimes it's a deep exhale after years of holding your breath.
Let's talk about desire, because this is the part that trips people up the most. We think desire has to be clean, acceptable, socially palatable. But real desire, it's primal, it's confusing, it's contradictory. It's not always logical, but it's deeply human.
We've both had to unlearn so much about what it means to want. I used to think my desire was selfish, that it needed to be hidden, that I needed to be easy or low maintenance or grateful for whatever I got. But the truth is, my desire is sacred, and when I ignore it, I betray myself.
I used to believe that as a man, my desire was dangerous, that I needed to control it, be careful with it, always keep it in check. And yeah, there's responsibility in how we express desire, but repressing it, that just turns it into shame, or aggression, or numbness.
Desire needs a place to breathe, a place to unfold, not to consume, but to connect.
So let's ask the questions we've been too scared to ask. What do I really want? What touches have I never asked for because I didn't want to seem weird, or needy, or high maintenance? What fantasies have I written off as too much, even though they turn me on?
What if you weren't afraid of your hunger? What if you saw it as holy? What if you stopped asking, is this okay? And started asking, is this true for me?
Redefining desire is messy work. It means letting go of what you've been told should turn you on. It means unlearning the porn script, the Hollywood montage, the checklist. It means making your own map and letting it change, letting it evolve as you evolve.
There's no final destination. No one gets a gold star for figuring out their sexuality. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to be surprised. Desire is a living, breathing thing, not a fixed identity.
Let yourself be curious. That's where the magic is. Curiosity is the antidote to inhibition.
I want to say this to the people who've been disconnected from pleasure for a long time. You're not broken. You're not too late. You don't need to rush your reawakening. Start small. Start slow. Start with your own hands, your own breath, your own noticing.
Let pleasure return to your life in moments. Warm sunlight on your back, a deep stretch, your fingers brushing against your own hip bone with tenderness instead of judgment. That counts. That matters.
We've been taught that desire has to be directed outward, toward someone. But what if the first place you pointed it was inward? Not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself with awe, with softness, with a kind of reverence that says, this body is mine. This pleasure is mine. This desire is mine.
Now we're going to talk about honesty, about the stories we carry inside, and what happens when we finally tell ourselves the truth. But before we go there, just breathe.
Let your breath remind your body it is safe to feel. It is safe to want. It is safe to be soft and slow and turned on, even if no one sees it but you. Okay, loves, here we are. You've made it through peeling back the layers, of returning to the parts of yourself that you might have abandoned, and now we enter one of the most intimate landscapes yet. The stories we tell ourselves about sex, about desire, about worth, about who we are and who we're allowed to be.
Now it's time to talk about truth, but not the polished kind, not the right answer. This is about the quiet truths, the ones that whisper in your head when the lights are off, the ones you might not even know you've been carrying.
We all have an inner script, a running dialogue about our bodies, our values, our pleasure, and most of us never stop to examine it. We just live it. We assume it's fact. We build our entire sexual identity around it.
So let's ask some big, slow, honest questions. What are the things you've never said out loud? What beliefs do you carry, silently, that limit your ability to be fully expressed? What's the voice inside you saying right now?
Let's say it together. I'm not enough. I'm too much. My partner isn't satisfied. I shouldn't need this. Something's wrong with me. I'm hard to love. I'm boring in bed. If I ask for more, I'll be abandoned. If I show too much, they'll leave. If I say no, I won't be wanted anymore. Does any of that sound familiar? Because those are the voices that run beneath our sexual experiences, and they shape everything.
They shape what we're willing to ask for. They shape how much we stay in our bodies or leave them. They shape how honest we can be with our partners and, more importantly, with ourselves.
Let me tell you a truth that took me a long time to learn. You can't be sexually free if you're still lying to yourself. And I don't mean big lies. I mean the little ones, like, I'm fine, it's okay, I don't need more, I should be grateful, I don't care if I don't finish, I'm not that kind of person.
That's the language of disconnection, of shrinking, of surviving.
But you weren't made to just survive. You were made to feel, to live inside your own body like it's a home, to speak your truth even when it's messy, even when it's complicated, even when it scares you.
And yeah, truth is scary because it often comes with consequences. And what happens if I admit I want something different? What happens if I realize I've been pretending, even in love? What happens if I speak my truth and my partner doesn't understand?
That fear is real. We've felt it. We've lived it. We've had to unlearn our own internal scripts, even as a couple, even in trust, even in safety. Because the deepest fears, they live inside you, not outside.
There was a time when I didn't feel safe asking for what I wanted. Not because Lizzie wasn't loving, but because I was afraid of what it said about me. I thought desire had to be filtered for her, sanitized, controlled. And I carried this belief that if I showed all of me, I'd risk pushing her away. I'd be too much, or too strange, or too needy.
And I had my own version of that. I told myself I had to earn pleasure, that I had to deserve being touched with care, that my needs were annoying, that if I asked for more, it meant I was broken, that I had to keep up or stay interesting or perform my sexuality in just the right way. And underneath all of that was a deep fear of being left.
These aren't rare beliefs. They're everywhere. They're inside most all of us.
But what if we started telling ourselves new truths, even if they feel like lies at first? What if your inner script sounded more like this? I am allowed to want. My pleasure matters. I can say no. I can say yes. I can change my mind. Curiosity is safe. I am lovable even when I'm unsure. My body deserves softness. I don't have to earn intimacy.
Telling the truth doesn't mean shouting. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's just noticing. Noticing when your body pulls away, when your breath shortens, when your stomach clenches, when your thoughts start spinning, that's truth too.
And once you notice it, once you make space for it, something starts to shift. It doesn't happen all at once, but slowly, your inner voice changes. It stops being a critic and starts becoming a companion, a witness, a guide.
We have to unlearn the lie that being confused means we're failing. Being uncertain is part of the process. We have to normalize saying, I don't know what I want, but I want to find out. Or I don't feel safe right now, but I want to. Or even, I thought I was okay with that, but something feels off.
That's what unlocking the sexual mind actually looks like. It's not fireworks or flawless orgasms. It's not porn-level stamina. It's the moment when you finally look yourself in the eye and tell the truth. Without judgment, without shame, just truth.
So what story are you living? What old narrative is shaping the way you touch, speak, breathe, or respond?
And what would it mean to write a new one?
It starts with small choices, letting your body slow down, letting your mind be curious, letting your voice speak.
Letting go of the need to perform and embracing the quiet honesty of this is me. Right now, no mask.
In the final part of this episode, we're going to talk about freedom, what it means to live, love, and fuck with awareness. Not just try new things, but to become someone new. Someone more whole, more soft, more free.
But for now, be gentle with yourself. Notice your stories. And remember, you don't have to believe every voice in your head, especially the ones that were never yours to begin with. All right, you've breathed with us. You've sat in the silence. You've told the truth, even if just to yourself. You've remembered something about your body, about your longing, and about your right to feel.
And now we arrive at the final chapter, the part we've been moving toward this whole time. Not a finish line, but a threshold. The place where inhibition meets possibility, where awareness becomes freedom.
What is freedom, really? Not the Instagram version, not the sex goddess archetype or the confident dom stereotype, not the endless rotation of new partners or positions or toys. Not that those things are bad, they're just incomplete.
Because freedom isn't about how much sex you're having, or how wild it looks from the outside. Freedom is about the absence of fear, the absence of shame, the presence of truth.
Real freedom is this: being able to say what you want, to say what you don't, to feel your desire without judgment, to change your mind without guilt, to stay in your body when it's lit up, to stay in your body when it's not.
Freedom is knowing that you don't owe anyone your performance, that your erotic self isn't for consumption, it's for connection. With yourself first, with others second. Freedom is choice, honest, embodied choice.
So how do we get there? What does it take to really break through the inhibition we've been naming, layer by layer?
We want to offer something simple. Not easy, but simple. Awareness.
Not control, not discipline, not performance, just awareness. The capacity to notice yourself without judgment.
To know what you're feeling, where it lives in your body. To name when you're scared, when you're disconnected, when you're turned on, when you're performing instead of being.
Because here's the thing. You can't be free from what you can't see. You have to see it first. That moment when you disconnect. That moment when you shrink. That voice that whispers, you're not allowed.
Freedom comes from naming it, not fixing it. There's no perfect version of your sexual self waiting on the other side. There's only this version. The one that's trying, the one that's curious, the one that's healing.
There's a freedom in saying, I'm scared, but I want to try. I don't know, but I'm open. I'm not where I thought I'd be, and that's okay. Freedom is spacious. It gives you room to evolve. It gives you permission to change your mind, to explore a fantasy, and decide it's not for you. To realize you've outgrown old sexual scripts and write new ones. To have sex that's awkward and tender and nothing like the movies and still call it beautiful.
There's freedom in not needing to be good at sex, and not needing to be turned on all the time, and not needing to chase validation through pleasure. There's freedom in letting sex be human, not cinematic, not performative, just real.
So if you spend a lifetime disconnecting from your wants, from your body, from your voice, I want you to know this. You can return again and again, without punishment, without pressure, just breath, just intention.
Every time you notice yourself numbing out and choose to slow down, that's freedom. Every time you feel your shame rise but soften into it instead of shutting it down, that's freedom. Every time you ask for what you need, even if your voice shakes, that's freedom.
And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. It might feel like too much or not enough. You'll fumble, you'll cry, you might laugh at the silliness of it all.
But the path to sexual freedom is not linear. There are loops, circles, spirals. You'll return to old wounds. You'll find new edges. But every time you show up with awareness, every time you show up with truth, you move closer.
So what now? What do you do with everything that's come up over the course of this episode?
You hold it. You breathe with it. You let it integrate slowly. You don't need to become someone new overnight. You just need to keep showing up as more of you.
Start with the tiniest acts. Touch your own skin without an agenda. Say no when you mean no. And say yes when you mean yes. Ask a question you've never asked. Let yourself fantasize without censoring. Let yourself want without guilt.
Maybe that's the most radical thing of all. To want, to admit your hunger, to move toward it gently, to let it guide you into deeper knowing, deeper connection, deeper freedom.
Your sexual self is not a problem to solve. It's a part of you that wants to come home. Not to perfection, not to performance, but to presence.
So thank you for being here with us, for sitting in the shadows, for breathing into the hard places, for letting us hold space with you.
This is the work. This is the soft, slow rebellion. To be honest, to be aware, to be free in your own body, in your own mind, in your own desire.
We'll be back with more, but for now, take your time, be kind to yourself, and remember, the path is yours, your pleasure, your pace, your power.
We love you. We see you. You are not alone.
We look forward to talking to you again on our next episode, coming out real soon. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Please drop an email to lizzieandnash@gmail.com with your questions, your comments, your concerns. We'll talk to you again soon.